What's up, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of Live With. Today, we're sitting down with one of our favorites, Kevin Reylek, to talk about the upcoming Roasters playing cards from Penguin Cards, aka Penguin Magic. Dude, I gotta say, this is actually one of my favorite decks of the year, no question about it. And not because it's, I think some of the decks you've had earlier this year have been crazy artwork. Some of them have been really innovative. This one just feels comfy.
Comfy.
Fair enough, and that's kind of the vibe. So when we wanted to do a coffee deck, and a big reason that I wanted to do a coffee deck isn't so much because I'm a coffee drinker. I am not a fan of coffee, but my wife is a huge coffee fan. So we have her little coffee corner in the kitchen, and
Nice.
anything from cold brew to French press to Nespresso pods, whatever.
Jeez, you guys have the full gamut, huh?
Yeah. And so and just knowing, that coffee is so popular in America and around the world. It's like the world's most popular drug, So obviously there have been plenty of coffee decks before. And my thought was like, okay, I've liked decks in the past that created a fake casino or some other fake business. Back in my Blue Crown days, we did the Sky Island decks, which created a fake airline. And so I've always kind of liked that vibe. And I was like, well, like rather than this just being a coffee themed deck, let's make it a coffee shop deck and have it be like this is the deck that this made up coffee shop designed and printed to produce to sell and have to use in their actual coffee shop. So
Yeah,
it's funny that
thank
you
you,
say
Mark.
comfy because
Thank you, Mark. We appreciate the support,
so much,
man.
buddy.
You want that vibe of like a coffee shop rather than specifically coffee the beverage.
Right. It's so fun.
Yeah.
I love the anti-typical and not your standard back design.
Yes.
It's so cool.
The funny thing about it is I was literally typing to someone a comment about this earlier, and they're like, I was trying to explain it, and I want to be like, it's cutesy, but like in a good way, like in like a fun way. And like, I can't get enough of it because I didn't know what to expect with it. I'm not a coffee drinker, Kevin. I know you're not a coffee drinker after seeing your comment I just replied to on the post on Facebook. So A, you definitely need to make a hot chocolate deck, but B, not being a coffee drinker, these decks normally don't like appeal to me necessarily, but I saw this one. I'm like, dude, this is just fun. Like, this is something that I think you could find at the store and pick up for like a game night. It's not just Magic oriented. It's not necessarily collector oriented. This is what I would consider like a legit, like toss around game night deck because it's got that like family friendly, fun vibe to it.
Totally. Yeah, so we can show it. So we'll start, I guess, with the back design. That's usually something that everyone kind of wants to see. So yeah, it is a bordered deck, obviously, but it's not kind of your typical thing where it just has a rectangle that's holding the design. We just have all these to-go cups and coffee mugs and different things. So from the back design, I mean, it could really just be like a hot beverage deck. There could be coffee or tea or hot chocolate or whatever you want to have in there. Irish it up if
so you don't have to hold up your arm the whole time. Here's a gorgeous shot of that back design there too. And I think one of the coolest parts about it to me is the lack of border. It's not a borderless deck, but it doesn't have a defined hard border there. And you almost have this kind of like implied border with breaks in it as well, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, and I like decks that do that. So like one of my favorite decks is the old Split Spades. That Mark Stutzman designed. And that has a non-rectangular, kind of non-square border. And so I like that sort of thing. And granted my tastes aren't always what everyone's gonna like, what the whole community likes, but a lot of my preferences do kind of wind up in the various decks that we do, obviously.
No, that's
absolutely understandable. And of course, you know what? We're 3 minutes into it, but I'm doing it anyway. We're gonna kick this off and get even more details right after the intro. So I feel like everyone out there is super curious. Steve's trying to hide his face now. He's now in coffee cup protection here. So, but for everyone out there, I'm sure you're really curious about when this deck is dropping. And I think one of the best parts about this is this thing is dropping tomorrow. So not only do you have a chance to pick this up real quick if you're big into it, but this is just an exciting deck. I've had a hard time picking my favorite decks this year from Penguin. And that isn't something I usually say from a lot of brands, but you guys have dropped bangers consistently this year. And this one coming in as your second-ish last deck of the year really just continues that theme. How long have you kind of had this in the works? This has been a long time coming. I think we briefly touched on it in your live episode, but go a little bit into the history here.
It's been a long time coming. So when the pandemic hit, we took that as an opportunity to kind of readjust how we had been doing decks. Prior to that, we had been doing a couple a year on Kickstarter and just sort of doing, not a huge release schedule. And so we looked at things we could do. We were like, well, we could do mega short runs and do this sort of thing and print with like MPC and do like super duper limited, super duper quick. But you kind of look at all the different branches that you could take, and ultimately we didn't think that made sense. So we wound up spending most of 2020 not doing releases. We spent most of 2020, there was a good 6-month window in there where like all I was doing was building up designs, working with artists and building out our pipeline of designs, so that then last October when we started releasing, that we could be on this 1 deck a month schedule. So as we were starting those releases, a lot of the decks, the designs were done and they were being submitted. So this actually was submitted to USPC last October. So the artwork for this has been done for over a year and everyone's just now seeing it, which is one of the frustrating parts of my job, because there's like cool designs that I'm like, oh, I want to share these with people and talk about them and let them see them. And then I can't. So we have another one, obviously we'll keep the focus tonight on roasters, but we have another one coming out towards the tail end of the month that also has been done for about a year, that I'm just so excited to see everyone's response and reaction to. So we're actually bumping up the schedule a little bit this year from October onward. So October we had the Room 237, and then we had the Oak Nut set with the new stock and finish. And then this month we have roasters. We will have our holiday deck. Most years we do sort of a winter Christmas holiday deck. That'll be coming when we release all of our Black Friday products and promos.
Nice.
And then we'll have, I think, at least one other. So I think we're dropping 3 for November, and then 1 or 2 in December as well. And then we might take January off. We may not do a January release just because it's kind of a lot to drop 6 or 7 in October through December.
People are always recovering from the holidays too. That makes a lot of sense. You don't want to overwhelm and then continue pushing it through. I think the great thing about it though is like these are great gifts. Obviously anyone who's into collecting, anyone who's into magic, for anyone who doesn't know what to get, you could always go with playing cards. And I think the cool thing about this, like I said, this is not just a magician's deck. Yeah, there's a couple gaff cards in there. It's not just a collector's deck. This is just like a laid back deck. Like I could see, I don't know what it is. I close my eyes and I can imagine like you rented a cabin for a weekend with friends and you walk in and this deck is sitting on the coffee table for like a game night,
Totally. Yep. It definitely has that vibe. And that's something that we try and keep in mind with our decks is playability. We don't want to go too crazy and off the wall with the designs that like you can't tell one suit apart from another or can't read the index corners and all that sort of thing. So, we do go custom and we play with sizing and styles and colors and all that. But, ultimately, they're called playing cards for a reason. Whether you are a collector or a cardist or a magician, those things all kind of have to come secondary, I guess, to still being like a fairly playable deck.
Right.
I see some questions in the chat, so I'll make sure that we don't ignore all the folks.
There are lots of questions. We will definitely be getting to
lots of questions from Erica. I'll answer as many of them as I can. Erica, how would I convince someone who hates coffee to buy the deck? That's up to you. I'm not here to force anyone to buy anything. So I say buy what you like. That said, if you yourself hate coffee, I bet someone you know and love loves coffee. So like Tyler said, they make a great gift. So if you have a coffee lover in your life, odds are they're going to be a fan of this one. It does not smell like coffee, to answer your question. It smells like any other USPC deck. Don't know why I held it to my nose. I have no sense of smell.
Really?
Really, yeah. And not like a COVID related thing my entire life.
Sure.
So just how some people are born blind or deaf.
Yeah.
I was born with smell blindness, which
I had
a friend who ask me is a benefit.
I had a friend who couldn't smell as well.
All right,
Throw it
question
on.
3 here. Half Brick says ground in the USA. Exactly when in the process and how are the cards or decks ground?
It's called crushed in the deck world.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, that was just our fun nod to coffee beans being ground and typically decks saying made in the USA. We thought we'd have some fun with that side thing. So I mean, of course, you don't normally have to specify that cards are caffeine free either. So caffeine free ground in the USA just means they're made in the USA,
I love
and
it.
then single origin barista approved.
I love that.
I mean, I didn't
barista
actually
approved.
send a design to any baristas, but I assume they approve of it.
Yeah.
That is too funny.
Yeah.
And so we had a fourth
and then
question in there, I
Erica's
think, as
fourth
well.
question: which mug on the back is my favorite? That is a good question. I kind of like the to-go mugs a little more than the regular mugs. I kind of like this brown one with like the white sleeve on it. So like
All
the
right.
dark brown one with the white sleeve. I'll pick that as a favorite.
I was gonna say I like the white one with the blue travel to go like sleeve on it with the handle on it. That's clever.
Yeah,
I like the blue second row all the way to the right. The blue with the white travel
with
mug.
the white sleeve.
Like the
Yeah,
travel cup.
nice.
Yeah.
So
And
that's the
Erica,
thing,
then
everyone
fifth
can kind of pick their own favorite in there.
Yeah.
fifth question: were there reject mug designs?
That's a cool question.
Yes, in the fact of color scheme. So we tried more or less this same design with several different other color schemes that were ultimately, of course, rejected because you can't make them all.
Yeah.
But yeah, we tried a few different things, and we tried some where it was very much sort of a brown and tan color scheme across the board, and some where we had even more color variety and wackiness. And so you try and kind of hit that balance, I guess, and just ultimately like what feels right, and of course we all gonna go by the by the rules of design and whatnot, and I have a fine arts degree, but yeah, ultimately a lot of the time it's just about feeling. You go through iterations until you say, yeah, this feels right.
No, for sure. Gotta always go with the laws of design, right?
Yeah. And so one of the fun things I think about this deck too is you guys kind of spruced up the standard courts as well. We'll call it. I'll pull up a quick picture here, but I can see like throughout all of them, the Queen of Diamonds with a diamond coffee mug, fun little aspects to all of the courts. Was this something that you knew you wanted to jump into on this one, or was it kind of just a last minute like, hey, how do we make this a little more coffee themed than just the color?
Yes, those changes to the courts were very much in mind when we started the process. So this deck was designed by Drew Hughes, who also did the Ace Invaders and the Jellyfish deck. And so we had a couple of decks under our belt with Drew, and we knew that he really was skilled at taking those classic standard faces and adjusting them and kind of tweaking them to where they still had that familiarity, but
Nice.
that they still were custom and had cool stuff going on. And so I knew for those that I wanted a coffee-y, brown sort of color scheme, and I knew that I wanted them holding coffee cups and mugs and sugar packets and that sort of thing. So we went with those notes to Drew, and then let him unleash his design powers.
Yeah, it's really cool because it's like there's so many options, and obviously the color of brown is coffee, and that's like the go-to, but just adding those other colors just spices it up and still looks great.
Yeah, having that sort of like cream yellow in there and whatnot, and then also enlarging them so much, taking off that bounding box and bringing them real close to the edge.
I love how big you made them.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm like, yeah, we should probably do more of that sort of thing with.
Yeah, I'm
with
a
more
huge
decks in the
fan of that.
future. Yeah.
Looks so cool.
Yep, and then we can show the jokers and things. So for the jokers,
Which I
that's
think
something
I
we can
got
kind of
those
talk
here
about
too.
it.
Hold
Like
on.
what
There
do
you go.
we? Oh, there
Bam.
we go. Perfect.
Yeah.
Nice image there. Like should it be a barista? Should it be this or that? And so I don't remember who originally pitched the idea, if it was me or someone else on the team at Penguin, or if it was Drew. But somewhere it was like, oh, the Joker could be a bag of beans, and then we're like, oh, and then of course, sometimes we throw in a card reveal for the magicians out there. Sometimes we don't. So we'll either do two identical Jokers, two totally distinct Jokers, or we'll do something like this where they're more or less identical, but with the built-in reveal. And again, it's just sort of a feeling. Like, does this project feel right for a Joker reveal?
Right.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Yeah, it's definitely fun.
Definitely a nicely done one there, yeah.
We changed up the gaffs a little bit. So we normally, in the majority of our decks, will do a double backer and a blank facer. So that's what we have here is the double backer. But then we just decided to change it up a little bit, and we went with a double facer for this
Okay.
deck, which is pretty fun. And so there's some sort of 2-card Monty routines out there that are published that you can do with this. But,
Nice.
same thing of just sticking with a good classic utility gaff that can have a lot of application, which is a big reason why we include the double backer and blank facer, is that there's just so many things you can do with that. Sometimes you're just like, hey, you know what? Like, we've done 6 decks in a row that have a double backer and a blank facer, so let's change it up slightly.
Yeah, no, it's definitely fun.
Definitely makes sense. And I think one of the cool things about this too, as per usual with Penguin cards here, you guys are doing some specials for the first release too. So for anyone who doesn't know, the release is going to be tomorrow, November 9th, midday-ish. I always like to say 11 a.m., but it's midday-ish. And so with that in mind, though, obviously the decks are going to retail for 12 and the half bricks are going to retail for 72. But for the first 72 hours, you guys are going to be doing a special where it's $9 for the individual and 54 for the half bricks, right?
Correct. Yep.
So cheap.
I love it. I know that really is dirt cheap. And like the great thing about it, these are USPCC crushed stock. So you're getting a really great handling deck for $9. Like I love that.
Yeah.
And for anyone who
Great
hasn't seen the
handling
half brick, I don't know if I have, that's the one picture I don't have is the half brick.
Oh, I have a half brick here. That was
Perfect.
oh, there it is. I meant to take it down earlier. But there we go. So you get kind of the same logo there on the top of the lid and then on the front. Caffeine free.
Nice.
And then the logo on either side. And then so sort of our front and back panels are the same, our side panels are the same, and then we have the nice big logo up top. And then of course we have to pop in a little custom artwork on the inside.
Nice.
And so we have the latte art, and that carries over from the spades primarily, or from the aces.
Yeah.
So I saw someone in the chat had asked about the aces having like a coffee stain ring. So all of them are sort of these top-down coffee cup views of like the latte or milk art.
Hold on, I think I got, there we go, 4 aces.
There we go. Boom.
I really tried to prepare, but obviously
You
dropped the
did.
ball on the half
You
brick.
did your homework this time.
Dude, I love that latte art style to it also because that like outer edge of what would effectually be the saucer is where the color comes in, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't speak highly enough about Drew of just sort of his instincts and his creativity and his ability. He's just a super talented guy all around, and just a joy to work with. And we've done 4 or 5 projects with him now, something like that.
Nice.
And yeah, I'm always excited for whatever the next one's gonna be.
Yeah. You're right over that side?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just looking at the these
enjoying
things.
those aces.
Yeah, I love them. I think they're
wrong with that.
nice. I kind of got lost in the detail of like just the diamond, how it kind of like folds in on itself. They really have a lot of those aspects to it. And it's interesting because I'm gonna pull it up again real quick here, Steve. Don't freak out. But it's almost like reverse latte art though, because usually with latte art, you have a white canvas and you draw with the coffee underneath to come through. But in this, it's like the foam itself is making the design, which is an interesting contrast there because it keeps the brown, the prevalent color throughout.
Yeah, totally.
Dude, I definitely dig it. I have to say, Drew has done an amazing job with these decks. I mean, not only this one, but like his style is just so fun, so comic-esque a little bit. It was a great word with it. I think like the funny thing is too, like looking at the coffee mugs, for some reason it reminds me of something you'd see like Garfield holding in like a comic, like it has that comic vibe to it, that Saturday morning cartoon / Sunday comics vibe to it that just kind of hits nostalgia without you realizing. And I think to answer Erica's question earlier, it isn't about the coffee, it's about the nostalgia aspect of it. I think that's what really like hits it for me, because I am not a coffee drinker. I don't, again, normally this would not appeal to me, but it's fun. It's got a little bit of a gift shoppy vibe to it too, but in a good way,
Yeah, and that's that balance of finding something that is well designed but also has broad appeal. Because you want to be fun but not like cheesy or tacky. So,
right.
It's
definitely fun.
Yeah. So we have another one coming out with Drew through the end of the year, which is a very different vibe than the
Nice.
ones that we have put out so far with him. He was like, yeah, you really kind of made me push my comfort zone. I think at first he was hesitant to do it when I brought him the theme and was kind of like, this is where I want to go with this. And he's like, I don't know, man. And I'm like, nah, you can do it. And then he was like, okay, how about this? And of course it was amazing. And I was just like, yeah, man. So we'll
That's
talk about
cool.
that one probably in December, I think.
Nice.
That'll be a fun one though. I'm excited to see where his like kind of I don't want to say like where his like not weaknesses, but where outside of his comfort zone there. It's really always interesting to
Sure.
see when an artist starts to try and push their comfort zone because I think at the end of the day, it makes it more interesting, you know?
Yeah.
Totally.
Oh, for sure.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Something outside of, because like, yeah, Jellyfish and Ace Invaders and Roasters are all very lighthearted. He did the courts also for the Room 237 deck. Room 237 was different designers for different elements, but Drew did those terrific court cards in the Room 237 deck.
Nice.
And so, yeah, he's just a super great guy.
Yeah, that's
Dude,
cool.
no
It's
question
always
about
good to
that.
find a designer that you enjoy working with, you like their style, and
Yeah.
that can definitely add different aspects to different decks,
And I have to say, I think one of my favorite parts of this deck isn't the deck itself, but it's the story behind, realizing that another brand was going for a roasters deck and that collaborative effort there to really talk and work through it. And I think it says a lot about the community as a whole that
Yeah,
there wasn't
and
any animosity, there wasn't any like turmoil over it.
For sure. And there are obviously people who have missed any of the what we put out. So when I was on before doing the longer live, we talked a little bit about that. So for
Yeah.
anyone who's tuned in, and I see that Lior had asked, are these called roasters like the OPC deck? So yeah, so kind of the full history of that, not elephant in the room, but for lack of a better term, it's that thing of like, oh, a few months apart, two decks with the same name are coming out. So we submitted this to USPC in October of last year.
Right.
And then in December, I got an email from my rep and she said, oh, hey, just to give you a heads up, another client has submitted to us a coffee themed deck called Roasters. And so for privacy purposes, they don't tell you who that is. They just like to give you a heads up because USPC doesn't grant exclusivity for deck names or themes or colors or what have you.
Right.
So they were just like, so, and so they told Cameron from OPC the same thing. They said, hey, someone a couple months ago submitted a Roasters coffee deck. And so, but, you don't know who you can reach out to at that point. It's just something that And he's like, okay, I didn't know who it was. And so back in the spring when I saw his first tease on Instagram, because I didn't know him at all, but I was aware, of course, of the brand. And so I follow them. And so I saw the tease and it said Roasters. And I was like, aha, this is who it is. And so I reached out and I was like, hey, I'm Kevin over at Penguin. I was like, we have a Roasters deck. And I was like, and you're probably aware that someone was doing one.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, USPC told us when we sent it. And so we got on a phone call the next day and chatted for like 45 minutes. And it was great. Cameron's such a great dude.
Oh yeah.
And
Nicest
it was
dude in
just
the
like,
community.
yeah, it was such a clear-cut case of independent creation where it's like, if you say, oh, I want a coffee themed deck, the term roasters is not like, where you
Yeah.
really dug deep to be like,
Yeah.
this is a super unique name.
Right.
I feel like the
And
only other option is like grinders, and that probably goes in the wrong direction.
Yeah,
these
you don't
days,
want to
so-
Sure.
Yeah. So
Or baristas.
There was a grinders deck. Randy Butterfield put out a grinders deck, but it was more on like the term for like, living the grind, being
Yeah.
a working gambler
yeah,
kind of thing.
hustling. Yeah.
Did he put it out maybe before Grinders? Like Grinder?
Before like the Grinder app.
Yeah.
That I don't remember.
I would
but,
guess so.
That's
but-
what I'm
yeah.
saying, yeah.
But so yeah, Cam and I had this great chat, and we were both just totally cool with the whole process. His was about to come out. We knew that the Penguin one was still several months away. We see how fast the OPC decks tend to sell out. So I was like, yours is going to be out of stock by the time ours comes out anyway.
Right.
And so his was like Roasters House Blend, and ours was always positioned as Roasters Coffee Shop. And so we were like, yeah, there's really no problem here. And so the one thing that I wanted to get straight with him off the bat, because so many people in the community, whether creators or customers, a lot of people, their first reaction when they see two similar things is so-and-so stole
Who
this.
copied that person?
Yeah, so the one thing that I didn't want to happen is that they're like, Penguin saw what OPC did and copied them. And it's like, no, our deck technically was done and submitted to USPC first, even though it came out later. But by the same token, Cam didn't copy us. Like, nobody copied anyone. We had similar ideas separately. And that just happens in life. I've seen it happen so many times in Magic and in playing cards, and it's happened a million times before, and it's going to happen a million times again.
Right.
So,
Dude, you want me to be honest? It just happened recently. I mean, kind of a little different, but it happened with a designer who literally last week put out kind of like
Concept art.
concept art, whereas putting out saying I can design a deck for you. Here's some concept ideas. Let's work together. And then literally right after he put that out, one of those designs was coming out this week.
Coincidentally,
From
coincidentally.
from another designer.
Yeah.
Wow. So it was just coincidence that
sure.
It's just like you said, it was two independent designers that had up the same idea.
And we're in such a boom right now in playing cards where you have so many people who are in such a level of overdrive of trying to think of deck ideas and names. So for two individuals to come up with either a same theme or a same name or a similar execution just is not that surprising. So we a couple years ago had done our composition deck where it was modeled after those composition notebooks. And someone approached us and said, "Oh, hey, I have a composition deck that I was planning to release." And it was the same thing, like, "Hey, did you copy this?" And I was like, "No, like if I had seen you, I would have just approached you and been like, can I buy your design, or can we do a royalty deal or something?"
Right.
Like we're not in a position, luckily, where we need to steal anything.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, sorry, man. Like I had this idea, you had a similar idea, and it's all good. Like I have a huge list of deck ideas that I've built over the last dozen years, and I've seen a lot of those ideas come out on the market. And so nobody hacked my computer and looked at my list of ideas. They just had the same ideas.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's fun. It's definitely fun to see different kind of renditions of the same topic.
Right. And I like seeing that. It's always cool to me to see someone else do like, oh, this is my take on whatever. Like I think, there's probably a good 10 or 12 coffee decks out there. And I feel like ours is pretty different design wise from any others. And I look forward to the next 2 or 3 or however many other coffee decks are going to come out in the next few years.
I'm actually surprised there aren't more out already, because I feel like coffee is such a universal aspect of many people's lives. So
I mean, I'm sure there's a ton of them out there that we haven't seen, that like just independent people have done them, and maybe they're on Etsy or just random spots like that.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, the cool thing is all of them are totally different from one another.
Yep.
Which is cool.
But so for anyone out there who's wondering still when they can get their hands on some roasters, these are going to be dropping tomorrow, November 9th at midday-ish Eastern Standard Time, sometime between 11 and 1 p.m. I think that's fair enough assessment there. They're going to be on sale for the first 72 hours, so definitely make sure to pick them up. You're going to be able to pick up a single deck at $9 and the half bricks at $54. The retail price after the sale is going to be $12 for the single and 72. I think it's 72 for the standard.
Yeah.
Math on the fly.
12 times 6, 72. I didn't go.
Yeah,
I went to art school. I didn't go to math
there you go.
school.
Yeah, 72. I just looked in the email you sent. 72. So, and we will update the link in the description below with the product link once they become available. Currently, it's taking you to Penguin Magic, but definitely make sure to head over to Penguin Magic and check out all of the cool stuff over there as well. There's some great decks that we've already shown with Kevin, in the past episodes. So you definitely want to check those out because they are really fun.
Yep.
Yeah. One question I think that. Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, go for it. I was going to say, now more than ever is a great time to follow our cards Instagram. So it's at Penguin Cards on Instagram, because we're dropping several decks between now and the end of the year. So roasters not only come out tomorrow, but we have another release next week that may be a gilded version of a deck that was released a couple of months back. And then we have some other totally hot new designs still coming in November and December. And staying tuned to the Penguin Cards Instagram is going to be the place to have all the latest and greatest info on those.
Nice.
And so now, because you mentioned it, and this kind of tied into my question, are we looking at a Roasters Gilded edition?
We are not on this one. That was one where throughout most of this year, most of our releases had a gilded option. And then we wanted to step back, and because we don't want to like artificially make the super limited stuff for collectors. So we decided to only really do gilded decks where it felt super right and where a particular color immediately feels like the right one. Not where we're sitting there and we could do this color, we could do that color. It's like with the Gilded Room 237. I have it right
Yeah.
here.
That's such a good deck.
Yeah.
With this design, so there's the back design, and so I was like orange for the gilding.
That's
No
so
question.
clean.
Yeah, and so it's
That's
just so
great.
vibrant and pops. I hope it comes across well on video, but in
No,
person,
Oh, it
it's
does.
beautiful.
like,
Yeah, it does.
it's one of my favorite gilding colors ever. So that
Yeah,
was a
it's cool.
no-brainer to do gilding. And for the coffee ones, it was like, yeah, we could have done gold or silver or whatever, but it didn't
It's
feel
too
like
fun.
it needed it.
It's too fun of a
Yeah.
deck. If that makes any sense. Like it's too, like Tyler was saying, it's a cute deck. It's fun, and I feel like if you threw gilding on it, it would be like big miss.
So Bren mentioned here too, dark brown gilding would have been nice. The interesting thing for my opinion on that one too, because I was thinking the same thing, Bren, but then I
Sure.
remembered that the border is kind of broken and implied and very white. So it would have been an interesting
Yeah.
break between it because there isn't actually
Yeah.
a lot of brown on the deck itself, which is actually
Sure.
at least not on the back design. It's very interesting for a coffee deck, the vibrancy of all the colors in there.
Well, there's that, and because at the same time we were developing the Oak Nut set, which
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone saw this. So this we debuted at 52 Plus Joker a few weeks ago. We try and debut with something new there, and so this is a 2-deck set. We don't sell each of it. It has a standard and a gilded, and so the gilding on here is sort of a dark brown bronze look. So we made 250 of these sets. I think we still have 60-ish left in stock. So if this appeals to anyone and you do want like that sort of nice bronze brown gilding, we
So
did
cool.
do it on Oak Nut, which is a nice kind of throwback classic looking design.
Definitely vintage looking.
And the real exciting
Yeah.
part about the Oak Nut series is it's actually printed on your new Ultra Lux stock.
Yes, so we did a lot of testing throughout 2020 as well, and a lot of samples with different print partners and things, and came up with a really nice stock and finish combo that we're big fans of, and so we're going
Nice.
to be doing a lot more of those coming up. So we have a couple more releases this year that are going to have Ultralux, because obviously not everyone is going to want a 2-deck collector set, or if they do buy it, they may not want to open it. So we do have some of that. So I'll actually give you another sneak peek. We're talking roasters, and those are available to buy tomorrow. But our Christmas deck, our holiday winter deck for this year is called Gingerbread.
Oh, snap.
Nice.
That's
Snap.
Gingerbread. That's gonna
I
be
see what you did there, Steve.
the Ginger Snap. So there's the tuck, the front
That's
of
so
it. So
dope.
again, very lighthearted.
fun.
This one is designed by Doug Fox. And he did our retro rockets and our robots deck. So he did our winter one. And so these are also that Ultra Lux with the Aquaflow coating.
And it feels
and
dope.
they just feel
Like
great.
it feels
Ah,
awesome.
Steve, dropping the sneak peek.
Not,
But
you
you're
dropped the
liking them,
sneak peek.
Steve?
The other
Like
one who did
so
it.
far, pretty much the only people who have handled them long term are me and a few penguin people. So it's
Oh, wow.
nice that we're starting to get them into people's hands. So I definitely want to hear like your unbiased thoughts on.
I was-
I mean,
I
they
was
feel great.
impressed.
I haven't put a ton into them, but they literally feel great. They feel like a nice premium stock from
Yeah.
USPCC. They're snappy. I like them.
They
Nice.
smell different though. I'll say that.
Okay.
They smell different.
They definitely smell like overseas.
Yeah, but not
smell
like not
worse?
as pungent. No, not as pungent though as I would have expected originally. Like
Okay.
when I first opened it, I was expecting it to be very chemical. It really was not too bad. Didn't smell
Okay.
like woody paper, but it smelled like, it smelled nice. Smelled doable. So
Yeah, I mean it's that they handle great. Like right out of the box,
Yeah.
they handle great. They feel
And-
great.
And that was something that was so important to us. We said, if we're going to start using a new printing partner and offer a new stock and finish, because we know how important that is, not just to our magician customers, but to cardists and even collectors who don't really use the decks that much. They still don't want a clumpy garbage deck.
correct. Well, you'd be
so-
surprised. Some collectors don't mind a clumpy garbage deck, but
Sure, and if you're doing something really cool and crazy with the materials, then like I get that handling can totally take a back seat there. But yeah, we wanted something that handles well and that you can do all the shuffling and fanning and all that stuff. So I mean,
Yeah.
Boom,
And
show off my
the one
perfect
thing that
Pharaoh
I always
skills.
do when I check new decks is like how that feels, like the side of the deck.
Yes.
You know, and sometimes when you get a really not the best stock, it kind of has this like really table smooth feeling. And these
Yeah.
feel like they were cut nice.
Yeah, that's the
So,
thing.
yeah.
You want them smooth, but not too smooth.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't feel like glass, you know, but they
Right.
feel great. They handle great. You know, obviously I'll put them in more testing into them, but I mean, I like them so far.
Awesome. And
Yeah.
so those will be the first really wide release Ultra Lux deck. I think the retail on them is only going to be $10, and then we always do some promos through the holidays where, you know, if you spend X amount, you get free stuff. So decks will be part of that. So it's like you could come stock up on whatever various decks throughout the year that we still have in stock, be they roasters or whatever else we still have, and then we'll throw you some gingerbreads for free. I don't know yet exactly what those levels are going to be, but keep an eye out. Head over to penguinmagic.com, sign up for the email newsletters, and you'll get that email blast when we launch that and what those numbers are. And of course, you can follow the Penguin Instagram, either Penguin Cards or the @PenguinMagicShop is the main Penguin account.
Nice.
And in the meantime, while we're waiting for all the gingerbread and the other stuff, you can get yourself some roasters tomorrow.
Yeah,
you're gonna love the roasters.
They can see you on another live when we have you on to talk about the gingerbread deck.
There you go. It's coming up fast. It's only going to be
a couple more weeks,
probably less than 2 weeks from now.
Nice. Yeah, it's gonna be
We're
fun to
be
check
like,
out.
I'm so sick of seeing that Reylek guy show up.
No, we love Kevin on here. We
we
always
don't
love
see many
having
redheads,
Kevin.
Kev. We enjoy seeing you.
So
I'm glad to hear it. I always enjoy hanging out and talking with you guys and answering questions. I appreciate everyone who pops up to watch us chat and throw out any of the questions.
And I know Erica had a lot of questions early on, but does anyone out there still have any questions before we kind of wrap things for the night, whether it be about the roasters or what's on the agenda for Penguin?
Yeah, anything else you wanted to see specifically in the deck? You got a favorite card that you want me to pull out here or something?
I feel like next year we got to start getting you guys into the thematic add-on business, because a dope travel mug with this would have been fun.
Sure. Yeah.
I love that number card right there. I really love the incorporation into the cards there.
Thanks. Yeah, and that was, you know, even that you kind of work on the sizing of everything, because you're like, you know, so between a 10 and a 2, it's like, how big or small do you get?
Yeah.
Oop, I'm mirrored here. So yeah, trying to find that balance of having enough room to, you know, obviously like the pips inside the cups are smaller, but the cup itself has to kind of have a size balance with the other pips.
Right.
And so it's, yeah, a lot more thought and effort and conversation goes into something even as simple as this than you might expect.
Yeah, for sure.
And the last question we had that came in here from Bren was Postage Internationally. What is international postage looking like right now?
International postage, I believe, is free. We used to have certain thresholds at Penguin for free international shipping, but I think now we ship for free worldwide, any order. I apologize if I'm slightly incorrect on that, but we definitely have free international shipping. There might be a threshold. You maybe need to spend $50, but I don't think so. I think it should just be free shipping on all orders.
I mean, I would think it's definitely a threshold, because if someone owns one deck,
but
like
our company owner is very like tuned into people's thoughts and desires with shipping, and obviously we know that, you know, people have been spoiled by Amazon over the years, and shipping is a big factor, and we do what we can to make that as inexpensive or free as possible, which is something that, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say out loud, I don't think Penguin gets enough credit for in the deck world, because everyone's putting out kind of these decks that are 15 plus and then $5 or $8 shipping. Come on, guys, $9 and free shipping.
Yeah, can't go wrong
you
there.
to find someone offering a better deal.
That is absolutely a steal.
Sure. Definitely.
If you're even on the fence about this one, for $9 and free shipping, it's worth giving it a shot. You can end up hating the deck, and it's still a USPCC crushed stock deck, so you're gonna love the feel of it.
Yep.
So everyone, keep an eye out tomorrow, midday-ish. I honestly just like saying midday-ish. I like giving Kevin a hard time because sometime between 11 and 1 p.m.
But we might hit the button a little early. Might be a little late, you know. computer
keep an
crashes
eye
or
out.
something.
The most lax hype brand you'll ever meet. Sometime around midday, we'll kick it out. Don't worry about it.
And well,
But
it'd be one like so we are obviously we want to sell our decks and we want to sell out and we want to sell out in a reasonable time frame. But yeah, our decks don't tend to sell out in 5 minutes or an hour or that sort of thing. So yeah, you'll be able to get the decks, you'll be able to get them with the launch discount, whether you're there at the moment of release or a few hours later.
Right.
So, and when and if things grow to the point that things are selling out that fast, then we'll have much more specific times that we do stick to, where we'll say, hey, it is this day at noon, so that you can be there hitting refresh.
Nice. Well, definitely
But
everyone
for
make
now,
sure to jump on that
midday-ish.
deal. Yeah, make sure to jump on that deal. I don't care what you're doing midday-ish tomorrow. Make sure to pop on over to penguinmagic.com. Check out the Roasters deck. Pick up a deck or two for yourself. Pick up a half brick if you love the half brick box. It is a fun one. And while you're at it, make sure to check out all of the other fun stuff going on at the Penguin Cards Instagram account, link down in the description below. And also make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.
So much, everyone, and thank you, Kevin. Peace.
Thanks,
We will
guys.
see you
Thanks,
soon,
everyone.
Kevin.
We'll see you soon.
Night, everybody. Thanks so much.